The lobby of the bank was alive with activity that bright morning. Sunlight streamed through the wide glass windows, spreading streaks of gold over the gleaming marble floors. Men and women in business suits tapped restlessly on their phones, rustling papers and stealing glances at the wall clock while waiting for their turn. Amid this polished setting, a man who seemed completely out of place entered the building. His name was Mr. Bennet, a tall, elderly figure with a time-worn face, silver beard, and clothes that bore the marks of countless years of labor. His plaid shirt had faded, his jeans were torn in spots, and a straw hat shaded him from the scorching sun outside. He moved slowly, holding an old leather wallet in his rough hands, drawing curious looks from those nearby. This wasn't the first time Mr. Bennet had stepped into a bank, but the sting of the stares he received always made him wish to disappear. The wealthy clients in their crisp suits glanced at him with a mix of pity and disdain. Even the employees avoided his eyes. Yet today, he had come for something simple, to check his account balance, just to be sure everything was in order. He had worked quietly all his life, never boasting of his success or flaunting his earnings. That humility often caused others to underestimate him. As he waited in line, the branch manager, Lucas Crane, stepped out from his glass office. Lucas was everything Mr. Bennet wasn't, young, sharp-looking, and flawlessly dressed in a navy suit with a bright red tie. He thrived on appearances and authority, often belittling those he considered beneath him. His laughter echoed across the room when his eyes caught Mr. Bennet standing with his old wallet. Lucas nudged the teller beside him and whispered something that made the clerk chuckle. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he mocked, "If you even have a balance, old man, I'll double it myself." The words sliced through the air like a knife. Conversations ceased, heads turned, and every eye fell upon the frail man in the straw hat. Mr. Bennet lowered his gaze, his shoulders heavy with silent grace. He didn't respond or defend himself. For years, he had endured ridicule from those who judged by appearances. The pain of being dismissed was familiar, though it never stopped hurting. What Lucas didn't realize, what no one in that room knew, was that this seemingly poor man was the actual owner of the bank they worked in. The quiet founder who had built it from nothing, brick by brick, never needing to show off his fortune. If you believe in kindness, respect, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Stories so we can keep sharing stories that truly matter. Comment below if you agree that real worth can't be measured by appearances. The clerk finally called Mr. Bennet forward, his tone still amused after Lucas's insult. The elderly man stepped up to the counter, handed over his ID, and waited calmly. The clerk typed in his details, but his grin faded as the numbers appeared on screen. His eyes widened, his jaw tightened, and he leaned closer in disbelief. Zeros filled the display, a fortune large enough to buy the entire building several times over. His hands trembled slightly as he whispered, "Sir, your account," but he stopped mid-sentence, realizing Lucas was watching. Lucas, sensing something unusual, strode over with a smirk. "Don't tell me he actually has something in there," he joked. But when the clerk hesitated, Lucas snatched the printed slip from his hand and froze mid-laugh. His face went pale as he read the balance, his arrogance melting away like ice under the sun. His hand shook as he realized the truth. The man he had mocked was not only wealthy, but the very person whose approval determined his career. The bank fell silent. Customers leaned forward, whispering. Staff exchanged uneasy looks. Mr. Bennet, calm and composed, took the slip, folded it neatly, and placed it in his wallet. His voice was steady, his words carrying quiet authority. He looked at Lucas and said, "The real balance we carry isn't in a bank account, but in how we treat others." With that, he turned to leave. His slow steps echoing through the stunned hall, Lucas's chest tightened. His face burned with humiliation, and suddenly every polished surface reflected his cruelty. The laughter he once prized now sounded like disgrace. Customers who once admired him now looked on with disappointment. Employees who had followed his commands saw him for what he truly was, a man who mocked the humble and bowed only to wealth. But Mr. Bennet wasn't done yet. Before reaching the door, he paused, turned slightly, and addressed the room. His voice softened, filled with warmth that reached every heart present. "I grew up with nothing. Every dollar I earned came from hard work, sacrifice, and patience. I built this bank not to breed arrogance, but to give families hope, to help workers chase their dreams, to remind everyone that respect should always come before riches. If you see someone worn down or weary, remember, you don't know the storms they've endured. Treat them with the dignity you'd want for yourself." The room was still. Even the ticking clock seemed to hold its breath. Tears glistened in the eyes of a young mother in line. An older gentleman nodded, pressing his hand to his chest. For a moment, it felt as though time itself paused, as if everyone in that bank had been forced to look inward. Lucas stood frozen, disgraced before staff and customers alike. Pride battled with shame, and for the first time in years, he felt small, broken even, realizing he had built his career on arrogance, not service. He lowered his head. Mr. Bennet left quietly, stepping into the bright sunlight, leaving behind a silence heavier than any reprimand. That afternoon, whispers spread like wildfire. By evening, news of the event had reached the top of the corporate tower. Within days, Lucas was summoned to a board meeting. At the head of the table sat Mr. Bennet, no longer in his straw hat, but in a simple suit that still reflected his humility. He looked at Lucas not with anger, but disappointment, and said, "Leadership isn't about how loudly you speak, but how kindly you treat the quietest voice in the room." Lucas resigned soon after, unable to bear his guilt. The staff began viewing their work with renewed respect. Customers entered the bank with fresh humility, remembering the story of the man in the straw hat. And Mr. Bennet continued living as he always had, simply, quietly, choosing grace over grandeur. To him, wealth was never the goal. Dignity was. In the years that followed, the story of that day became legend, not just about a hidden CEO, but about a truth we often forget, that appearances deceive, but character never does. And somewhere in a sunlit lobby filled with strangers, an old man reminded the world what true wealth really means. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, comment, and share this video with others. Don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Tales Stories for more tales that remind us of the strength found in kindness and respect.